I want you to picture something. People who have ever been in a situation where there was someone playing both sides, someone backbiting or being two-faced, as we used to say. So yeah, anyone who's been in a situation like that, let's say you have a person in the middle of two people. They go and tell this person this, maybe this person said this about you, or they look at you like this, or this person is like this. And then they go to that person and do the same thing, right? Uh, hey, this person's like this person's dirty, he's poor, or he said this about you, whatever, right? And so these two people begin to feel a certain way about each other. Only later to learn out that the whole conflict was orchestrated, was manufactured by a middle person, like a middleman, instigator. So it's funny when you think about this scenario, because I'm pretty sure people have been in this scenario, and maybe they came to realize that it was an issue, uh, and that this person was the person who instigated this whole, you know, conflict. And then the people may come to terms with, oh, we're good now. I'm sorry. It was a misunderstanding. This person's a piece of crap. Whatever, right? So essentially, this is the problem people in America, especially black people, have with peoples of other nations. And it's not necessarily like a person from the U.S. government, or sometimes it could be a person going and saying something about someone, because it does happen. Like I said before, I spoke about the Chinese incident where she was calling black people the N-word, the woman, and later on she apologized because the government got on her and said that she had an ex-boyfriend who brainwashed her. But the main way this happens is through media, through movies. So, for example, like, because I'm in the Philippines, right? Sometimes when I immerse myself in certain cultures, I want to see something about those cultures, or maybe the type of movies or way that they looked at. I want to see some of their entertainment. So if I go on Netflix and I look up Filipino movies, and maybe they're from the Philippines, but sometimes I may see a big blockbuster movie. It may be from America, so let me watch this. It might be good. It's in the Philippines. But I go look at the movie, and the movie's just in the jungle. It's in the jungle. So basically, essentially, what these media heads are telling us is that the Philippines is all jungle. It's third world country. There's nothing, right? And this is a big issue, because this is how people form opinions, and how they come to see things, and where they get their information from. A lot of people are not that informed. They really don't have sources, people they know, or being able to see pictures. Of course, now in this day and age, it's a lot different. People can see things differently. You know what I mean? People can see things differently. So a lot of times now, people are more informed than they ever were. But yeah, this leads me to like how there have been issues online with like foundational black Americans and black people from other countries around the world, around the diaspora. And the problem comes from because Hollywood portrayed black people as criminals, as thieves, as drug dealers, as gangbangers, murderers, right? This is what is America shown of, of people from that land. And on the flip side, in Jamaica, shown them as being weed heads, drug dealers, super violent, womanizers, right? People from Africa being poor, swollen bellies, flies all over their face, needing food, needing donations, whatever. And so this is how we inform our opinions. And people will speak about these things as if they're a fact. They'll be like, yeah, but they really don't have any food in Africa. Or they'll say, like, all black people from America have guns, right? And you're not basing this off any facts. You're basing this off of media you've seen, because this is where you got your information from. But normally in these type of situations, like the example I use, when people come to realize that they may have been fed wrong information, usually people come to terms with that. So I know, and not to put my people on a pedestal, but I know a lot of times when people encounter other people from other places, we correct ourselves and we adjust, right? And people do this all the time. Um, for instance, a person may work around a Jamaican and they may say, "Hey man, I got some weed, man. You trying to smoke?" And they may say, "I mean, don't smoke weed, man. I don't smoke weed." But, sorry, but the terrible Jamaican accent. I'm not trying to offend anybody, but you get what I'm saying. And they be like, "Man, I don't smoke weed. What makes you think I smoke weed?" I'm like, "Man, I thought all Jamaicans smoke weed, right?" Or maybe you're around an Irish person, you try to get them to drink. I don't drink. I never touched alcohol in my life, right? And so these are stereotypes and ways that we've been programmed and fed through media to see, people a certain way. And so it happens all the time. Like I've worked jobs and people may work around some, you know, Eritreans or Jamaicans, and people say, "Oh man, you're cool. We didn't know you were like this," and we embrace them. We take them in. We break bread with them. We bond with them, right? Um, and and we because we see black people as relatives. Is how we always looked at other black people. But there's been how you say like an imbalance because it didn't go both ways. Like even though these people may speak to us and we may be cool with this Ethiopian or this Trinidadian, we may get along, we may kick it, they may be in our circle, but it hasn't really been balanced on those opposing sides as far as like their family, because our family never my family no one in my family ever said don't talk to a Jamaican, don't bring an African home. Our people don't say that. That's not something that goes on in our households, but it goes on in these other immigrant households who come to America. And that's why you have this conflict online and all this babbling and fighting and arguing and so uh, recently, I was watching a debate. I think the guy's name Frank Zach. I forget. I will put it on the screen and I'll show a picture of the image. But this guy is a foundational Black American. He's a historian. He's very sharp. He's up there. He's like up on the level of like Tariq Nasheed or Marquette Devon, right? Um, and the thing is that he was debating an African dude. They're actually friends in real life. And the African guy was very polite because he says, he's been in America for like over 30 years, and he was speaking about some of the issues, and he said he takes it for us all the time to, immigrant communities. But one thing during the debate is that the brother, Frank was trying to explain to the African brother, like, look, the reason you are here, the reason all you immigrants are here is because of us and our work, our people's work. And the guy was trying to say that doesn't make sense because you have Africans in Europe and you have Africans in Australia, whatever, and they're not there because of you, right? And it was just crazy. And so in the comments, I remember like people where he was asking for your thoughts. So I left a comment. I said, I go off facts. I go off data, facts, historical things. So I've researched this, and yes, Black people were responsible for opening up immigration. But anyway, my comment was that, this African brother is very ignorant. Between 1880 to 1920 alone, over 20 million Europeans and Canadians were let in the country, all white people, right? And so, America was not multicultural until we opened it up. Sorry, the flies getting on me. And so, I got attacked in the comments. People were like, "Oh, that's not true." One guy said, he named some Haitian guy that was in America in the 50s or 60s or whatever, I don't know. And he was saying he was a stockbroker on Wall Street. That's neither here nor there. Another guy said his grandmother came in the 1950s, right? And so, I broke down some of the history in the comments because I love educating people, and sometimes I just like these debates because, especially when you own the information and you know what you're talking about. But it just goes to show that even though we're supposed to be brothers, it's like you don't even want to give us our props. You keep bringing, things into the game, into the narrative that's not that doesn't make any sense. It's obsolete. So what it was a guy over here. So what it was Chinese in the country. I broke down the whole Chinese, the whole conflict with them anyway, from dealing with the railroads to, up until the gold rush in California, like how they came into the country. And what people don't even realize, the Chinese you had for the gold rush and the Chinese you had working the railroad were from the same region in China. They were from the same region. So evidently they had a program going on. They had someone there sponsoring them, whatever, right? But But it just goes to show like how combative people are. Like they want to argue that, like, you don't, like, basically we're not in America because of you. They really give the credit to the white people in America. You know what I mean? It's like, and the crazy thing is, we're not saying you owe us anything. We're not trying to rub it in your face. It's only coming to place because of the disrespect, because, people are being disrespectful. That's where the problem is coming from. Sorry, that was a motorcycle. Yeah, but so, like I said, we're not asking for compensation or you owe us. We're not bragging. We're just bringing this up because we're being disrespected online, and people are running with these stereotypes. And like I said, we were fed stereotypes about other people, and we adjusted and, realized that they weren't true. We don't stick to those, right? But we're still, our stereotypes don't get diminished or taken away. And I know part of this has to do with our culture, because don't get me wrong, one thing that has really brought a lot of strife between different communities, dealing from our community, is our culture of how you say, like, bagging or ragging or burning or joking or scoring or popping, snapping. Wherever you come from in America, whatever you call it, right? That's a part of our culture. And we only do this. We'll do it to anybody. We will, joke on anybody. But we really do it to our people, even if they're from Africa or Jamaica. That's our way of embracing you, of taking you into our family, into our culture. You know what I mean? And so, but it causes a lot of division amongst people. People don't understand it. They don't get it, especially Africans. Africans are hurt. They are, like, bruised over that African booty scratcher. Hey, that's something we called each other. You know what I mean? Like, because we considered ourselves Africans. You know what I mean? That's how we grew up. We didn't, of course, people feel like, oh, I'm not from over there, because this is a narrative we were taught, because we weren't shown the good from those communities, those societies. Just like Haiti. You know what I mean? They don't show the good about Haiti right now, even to this day. And Haitis are a beautiful people with a beautiful culture, a beautiful history. You know what I mean? And they're only portrayed as being violent and poor. But we know better, right? And so, yeah, that's where a lot of this division has come from just, people can't understand that. And I've never seen any division with other black groups. And for example, this is one thing I often point out. Like, I'm from Los Angeles and and Nashville, you could say, because my mother's from LA. I was born in LA, and my father's from Nashville. So I spent a lot of my life in Nashville. Spent a lot of my life in LA. Went to school in both places. Excuse me. And so one thing I really loved about Nashville, and I often tell this to people, is that Nashville was never violent. It's violent now. I've heard about a lot of things. I haven't been out there in, like, over almost 30 years. But Nashville was never real violent. They used to do a lot of robbing, as far as, like, because they always had, like, it was always a lot of money. Like, a lot of guys in the streets, a lot of nice cars, jewelry, a lot of rich guys. So it was always a lot of robberies and different things like that. People used to get shot a lot, like in the leg. Or, it wasn't real bad. People were getting killed. Don't get it wrong. People got killed. But it was never like Memphis. Memphis was a rough city. Memphis is always been one of the worst cities in the South as far as, like, roughness and, the different things they do. But now Nashville has changed. But anyway, when I used to be in Nashville, one thing I could say about Nashville that I always gave them props for, just to go back when we look at the Alabama brawl or whatever, the one on the harbor, the slave port where they were by the boats and they were fighting. People weren't in the comments of those videos, how it's a new day, people are not going for that no more. I never knew of a time when people went for that. Not since I've been alive. And like I said, Nashville was never a violent city. But one thing I knew about Nashville that I seen with my own eyes is that a person could not like you. They could not like you or whatever, where you come from. But if you got into a situation with a white guy and the white guy was beating you, they would not let a white guy beat you. That was one thing they believed in. They'll sit and watch it. They're like, you're not winning this fight. They'll let you fight. And if somehow he's getting the best of you, which a lot of times did not happen often, they were going to jump in. You know what I mean? They were going to jump in, and this is not to demean white guys. This is not to speak that they say that this is right. I'm not going to take an angle on that. But the point of what I'm saying is that that was the love they had for other melanated people, such as themselves, such as myself. They embraced everybody, Jamaican, Haitian. They didn't care. You know what I mean? If they were somewhere and they were in the mall and a white guy hit you or something, they're gonna jump in. They're not going for it. You know what I mean? And like I said, this is not a violent city. There was. I mean, don't get it wrong. They had some bad dudes. They had some bad guys do some bad things. They have guys sitting in prison for life. Is when I was there in the 80s and 90s, it's nothing like it is now. You know what I mean? It was a totally different thing. It was about making money, and people used to get into it about size of towns. It wasn't no gang violence. It wasn't no. They had some. I heard about Crips or Bloods come in or migrate. I never really experienced it like that. I'm not trying to take anything from anyone to say they didn't have it. I don't want to offend anyone, but that's just what I remember, what I experienced. But yeah, so like I said, for instance, when you look at the Philippines and like what they show in movies about, the jungle, that's why you have so many YouTube videos of people going to Manila like, oh, this is BGC. Wow, this is Makati. Wow, this is Cebu. This is so modern. Look at IT Park. That's why they're doing that, because they're breaking the narrative. They're breaking what they've been shown and what's commonly been portrayed about these places. So yeah, I encourage brothers and sisters from other places of the diaspora to change your way of thinking. You know what I mean? We don't look at you all one way. Now, if you ruffle our feathers and get us, back us into a corner, the claws are going to come out. And people, they're going to turn into a lion and they're going to start swinging. And that's when things get said. And, because one thing about it, like I said, we have that bagging culture that of getting on you, scoring, joking, whatever you want to call it. And we will get into that if we're pushed to that. But overall, our people are embracive. Even though there was so much tribalism in Africa, we still sought to see people as, as one. And people pretty much still see things that way. So, hey, man, just give us our props. We don't have to fight and debate everything. And I want to say this before I'm done. I want people to think about this when they try to argue, like all these guys that went into the comments in certain videos and try to tell me that Black Americans are not responsible for immigration. We bragged on other places. We bragged on Haiti freeing themselves and kicking the Francis. But I remember seeing information about the British, where they were saying like the British military, like nobody ever broke their line or penetrated their line. Like they, like they had a, whatever, 1,000-0 record or whatever, right? And then I learned about the Kenyans and how the Kenyans in the woods or the jungles or whatever, they beat the British Army with bamboo guns. You know what I mean? We brag about these type of things. You know what I mean? We brag on our people from other lands. You know what I mean? So we don't just sit here and put ourselves on a pedestal. We highlight all of our people. That's a thing that Africans do. We brag about everybody. Marcus Garvey, people who come from other countries, places. We brag about other people's inventions. If they look like us, you're like, hey, this guy came over here and invented this, even though this guy was Canadian or this guy was Jamaican. That's what we do. You know what I mean? So like I said, we're not trying to be divisive. We're not trying to brag. We're just saying, hey, give us our props. We give you your props. Give us our props. That's all it is to it. And stop falling for the narrative of Black people being lazy and different things like that. These are white supremacist talking points. Laziness came about as a label after slavery because they didn't want to pay us. That's when they got the Statue of Liberty and it was a slave, but they got on France. Hey, we can't have that. And changed it, and they put it up in that harbor, and they put that inscription: give us, you're tired, you're hungry, you're broke, you drug it out, whatever, on the inscription on the Statue of Liberty. And they started immigration, but they started it for Europeans because they needed more Europeans, because blacks had all the working skills. We had all the skills and job skills and trades and all that because from being enslaved. And they needed more people in America that had those skills to set the balance right. That's when they opened it up. Our people came in the 60s and said, hey, we open up immigration. You had the Chinese Exclusion Act, Say, open up immigration, let those people in, let other people in. We need Haitians, Jamaicans, we need Vietnamese, Filipinos, whatever. We opened it up because we thought we were going to have allies because everybody came into the country, even though they had some of the discrimination with the Irish or with the Italians. Still, these people automatically got into that white fold because these Italians didn't come and click up with us. Irish didn't click up with us. You know what I mean? They're all identified as white. So we were thinking if we open up immigration, this is what our people were thinking, then we will be able to have a coalition as well. And people will vote with us and they'll ally with us and they'll march with us, but they didn't happen like that. You came and you fell into the narrative. So, hey, let's get it together. You know what I'm saying? Acknowledgement over hate. We acknowledge y'all. Just acknowledge us. That's all I'm saying. And one thing, before I forget, there's one thing I want to say. I think all these communities should strive to be like the Belizeans. To me, honestly, in my opinion, from what I've seen, there is no greater ally than the Belizean people, especially the ones in LA. Like, there are so many neighborhoods where people don't even, may not even realize these people are Belizean. People have to tell them, you may speak about some, oh, he's Belizean. We tell them because, people don't know, but that's how good people get along. You know what I mean? There may be some little bump your heads here and there. That's just a part of the culture when, you have a masculine culture. But yeah, man, I love my Belizean brothers, you know what I'm saying, and people, and the ones who are close to me, they know who this is for, but overall, LA is more so weighed with Jamaicans, Belizeans, like New York is weighed with Jamaicans, but we get along. It's like, we get along very, very well. There is no separation. They're integrated in our communities. And, and that's what we thought we were going to get from other communities who came to America. But hey, that's just me giving props to my Belizean brothers. E-Rock, Lil Chucky, Moose, all y'all. I love y'all, homie. Stay up.